Kiev's ties with its most important wartime ally have been driven to a new low. Donald Trump cut short his meeting with Volodymyr Zelensky and said that the Ukrainian leader is not ready for peace with Russia. The clash in an extraordinary shouting match in the Oval Office has thrown question marks over chances for a truce. Zelensky was meant to be making a full White House visit to sign a minerals deal with the U.S. as part of the post-war recovery in a U.S.-brokered truce. Instead, an ugly clash blew up almost immediately in the Oval Office, where Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance shouted at Zelensky, accusing him of not being thankful for U.S.'s help in the three-year war against a Russian invasion. While Trump berated Zelensky, telling him that without U.S. assistance, Ukraine would have been conquered by Russia. According to a U.S. official, the Ukrainian leader was told to leave.
And we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
allowed.
cabinet.
You haven't been allowed.
In this cabinet.
We gave you, through this stupid president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military equipment. And you men are brave, but they had to use our military. If you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days. This is something
maybe
new.
Less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this. I tell you.
The extraordinary meltdown came after Trump said Ukraine will have to make compromises in a truce with Russia, adding that they hopefully wouldn't be as big as some people think. But showing Trump pictures of war atrocities, Zelensky said there should be no compromise with a killer on their territory.
You don't have the cards. You're buried there. Your people are dying. You're running low on soldiers. You're running low on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing. And then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this. Look, if you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course.
Zelensky left in his motorcade shortly after without holding a planned joint press conference. The White House has said that resources deal has been left unsigned. Plates and other items were seen being packed up outside the room where lunch was to be served to the leaders. Trump took to his Truth Social platform to castigate Zelensky, saying he disrespected the United States of America in its cherished Oval Office. Trump further wrote that Zelensky is not ready for peace and can come back when he is ready. The meeting had appeared to get off to a friendlier start when Zelensky earlier said that I think President Trump is on our side. But it was soon followed by dramatic public breakdown to culminate the long tense relationship between Zelensky and Trump.
But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing. All right, I think we've seen enough. What do you think? Huh? This is going to be great television, I will say that.
Trump has said Zelensky overplayed his hand during the clash, accusing his visitor of wanting to drag out conflict with Russia. While departing the White House for his Florida estate, Trump said he wants a ceasefire now. Trump accused Zelensky of looking for something that he is not looking for. Well, after the appalling spat, Ukrainian Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal has also reaffirmed that peace without Russia, without any security guarantees is not possible. He said in a social media post that ceasefire without guarantees is the way to Russian occupation of the whole European continent. And well, for more on this, we are now being joined by Lieutenant Colonel Daniel L. Davis from Sterling, Virginia. He is a military expert and host of Daniel Davis Deep Dive on YouTube. Welcome to WION, Colonel Davis.
Thanks for having me.
First up, you also saw that fiery exchange taking place in the Oval Office between Trump and Zelensky. What is your reaction and what perhaps will be the consequences of that fiery exchange on the battlefield, with Trump clearly saying that the Ukrainian president is not ready for peace?
Well, I think just factually speaking, that's correct. He is not ready for peace. You heard both in the statement that you just read by the Prime Minister of Ukraine and from Zelensky on the Fox News piece that you referred to earlier. They don't want to give anything away. They want to be able to have security guarantees. They want to be able to set the terms of the negotiations. They want to tell the Russian side what they're going to do. What they fail to recognize, what all of these people that are talking about this beyond the Trump administration, is this mentality, this belief that there are choices that can be made, that they can choose to either have security guarantees or not, etc. The fact is, this war is militarily lost already. Ukraine, there is no military path for them to be able to gain anything. They've tried everything. Russia is in a position right now, this is critical to understand. They can either achieve what they want on the ground via diplomacy, meaning that the concessions on the Ukraine side, that they'll get the security that they want in their very harsh terms, or they'll take it by force of arms on the battlefield. Trump said yesterday, he gave a clue to anybody who was listening. He said, I think a deal could come quick, but it may not come at all, because if he can't agree to Putin's terms, if Zelensky won't agree to it, Russia will simply keep fighting until they will win a military victory. It can get a lot worse for the Ukraine side if they don't acknowledge that really painful reality.
Colonel Davis, in your opinion, do you think that Kiev should have signed the minerals deal agreement with Washington, D.C. without any security guarantees on the battlefield? Because something like that happened in the past as well during the annexation of Crimea, wherein Russia had violated the ceasefire agreement, which is what Zelensky is also scared about this time around.
He's not in Crimea. That's a separate issue. He was talking about in the Donbass, but of course he only talked about the Russian violations and didn't mention that the Ukraine side also didn't agree to or didn't perform any of the critical parts that they were supposed to, namely change their constitution to give semi-autonomous declaration and protections to the Russian population. They never did that, and then Russia didn't do its part either. But the point being, though, it really doesn't matter. If the Russian side has the military capacity and the power to impose its will on the west, on the western side of Ukraine, then it doesn't matter what anybody thinks. It only matters what Russia can do. This is a cold-hearted calculation that I know a lot of people don't want to hear, but that is the truth. You can't get what you want if you're in the weaker position, and Ukraine is in the weaker position.
Right, Colonel Davis. But that is what was the point of contention here, wherein Ukraine wanted security guarantees from the White House, which Trump has clearly denied. I also want to seek a follow-up question on that as to how do you see Europe will be viewing this? Because we saw Macron and Starmer's visit to the White House before Zelensky's trip to the White House, wherein they also clearly lamented and asserted that any ceasefire deal, any agreement should not come down to a fact that Ukraine should be surrendering.
Well, yes, that's exactly the problem. That's the preference on the Western side. They would prefer not to have the deal ended on terms that Moscow sets, but they don't have the power to enforce that. That's the thing that is so crucial that just can't get through so many of the Western minds. And listen, Trump said the day before, there would be no security guarantees, even with this mineral deal. It was never part of the deal. It was never going to be. So what he said was it would be ostensible guarantees, because he said if we have our resources that we have a stake in, that we would do whatever we could to make sure that they stay open and available. But he expressly said there would be no military guarantees at all. So if anybody expected otherwise, they weren't listening to him.
Right, Colonel Davis, thanks very much for joining us on the show with your insights.
Thank you.